Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Another cold one. Hence, I've got the big daddy of dressing gowns out. But I hope you're a bit warmer where you are. Anyway, how about a morning video? What should we talk about? How about we talk about Eddie Hearn and his comment towards Simon Jordan, that Jordan's opinions on the playing of the Saudi national anthem just before the Dubois versus AJ fight was borderline racist. Borderline racist is the phrase he used. Now, I think that's quite simply a playing of the race card. I think it's a nonsensical thing to say, borderline racist. You see, words like racism, to me, they're like atom bomb words. You should only use them when something really is, in this case, racist. A lot of these words, they get cheapened. They become sort of generic terms. And this is one of those occasions where it's kind of an insult to people who have actually suffered racism, proper racism, to sort of use it in this kind of instance, this trivial instance. Now, let me say, I don't actually agree with Simon Jordan about the playing of the anthem. I didn't really care. I thought, okay, the Saudis have put their money up, they're putting on a show, let them have their 30 seconds of playing the anthem, that's absolutely fine. Jordan took umbrage with this because he feels that, British promoters are prostituting themselves by allowing the Saudis to come to London, the capital of the UK, and in a sense, sports wash, which I think they are doing that. I think they are. I think the whole Saudi thing is definitely a case of sports washing. And there are plenty of people, myself included, who would say that if you look at Saudi Arabia, their human rights record is atrocious. The treatment of women, gay people, and so on and so forth in the past has been appalling. They're supposedly dragging themselves into the 21st century. And there have been steps in the right direction, but my God, they've been long overdue. Now, those are arguments, those are debates that can be had, and I would be very much on the side that yes, what I've just said stands, it's relevant. Is that borderline racism? Well, if it is, they need to go and argue, whoever says that, Eddie Hearn or anyone else, needs to go and argue with Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Save the Children, all these organisations who make this statement that the Saudis' human rights record is absolutely appalling. It is. And by the way, if anyone wants to come back and say, yeah, well, the West doesn't have a good, human rights record, I have many, many criticisms of the West, especially where geopolitics is concerned. Plenty of criticisms, believe me. But the subject of this is we're talking about Saudi Arabia. We're talking about the Saudis. So, so on the one hand, I understand that there's a debate to be had. But when it comes to something like the playing of the national anthem in Saudi, all right, fine, play it. I don't agree with Simon Jordan. Simon Jordan seems to be saying that it's kind of representative of something greater. It's representative of the idea of sports washing, of papering over the cracks of bigger issues than boxing. Well, what he's talking about essentially is propaganda. And yes, there is an element of that again. But I repeat, for Hearn to come back and say this is borderline racism is so wide of the mark as to be an embarrassing comment. Now, Hearn has made plenty of embarrassing comments in his time. Just because he's an extremely good, hard-working promoter, which he is, doesn't mean he's always, holier than thou. It doesn't mean that everything he does is designed, for the fans. On the contrary, he's a money man, just like Frank Warren and all the others. He's Bob Arum. These are money men. Oscar De La Hoya is another one. They want to make money. That's what they're in the game for. And morality, it's easy to sort of rationalise. Anyone can rationalise their morality and give their sort of moral compass, shall we say, a broad span of, depending on the situation. Well, maybe I can sort of amend my morals, my ethics, for this particular instance because of I'm making a bit of money, and you can always we all do that. We all rationalize things in our lives, you know. Well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Then, you know, suddenly you're in a situation where the decision is between bad and even worse. And so you think, oh, I don't really want to do that, but I'll have to do it. And, okay, I'm forced to do it. Are you forced to do it, or is there another alternative? You know, there's always these things that go on in our head, especially from a moral point of view. You know, where we act, it's human nature. It's part of human nature. That's why human morality, human nature, in fact, is really quite contradictory in many respects. That's quite a usual thing, and it's weird because you can do something that you don't agree with, but it doesn't necessarily make you a hypocrite. A lot of times it does. So let's say you say, well, I wouldn't do that sort of work. That's terrible, that is. But then you genuinely can't find another job. Well, you've got a choice between doing the thing that goes against your morals, working for someone, working for a company that you may hate, or living on benefits, or maybe even starving on the street, getting into debt, and so on. You know, we all amend what we think we would and wouldn't do as time goes by, depending on the circumstances. And also, as you get older, you become more worldly. You have more life experience. You sort of amend slightly not necessarily your morality, but it becomes more nuanced, and you sort of do things that perhaps as a younger person you might not have done. But to get back to the point of this video, no, I think Hearn is wrong to bring racism into this debate. It's not racist, right? No one's talking about ethnicity. What we're talking about with regards to Saudi is behavior, is actions, is a history of what's gone on that we may not agree with. And because the West has at times behaved appallingly towards other countries, does that make us hypocrites? Again, that's a debate that can be had. I wouldn't dismiss that argument. I'll have to think about it. But racism, no. Racism I've never ever heard a convincing, even a remotely convincing argument for racism. I've never heard a racist ever mention an argument that stacks up, that's logical, reasonable. I'm 57 years old. I've never heard one ever. But let's reserve that word for real instances where people are, genuinely against someone solely because of their ethnicity, solely because of their color. It exists. Racism exists. Don't get me wrong. It does. It still obviously exists. You never kill anything that's a concept, that's an idea. But does it exist? Yeah, absolutely. But in this instance, what Simon Jordan was saying, I don't think it was remotely racist at all. And by the way, Simon Jordan is not someone that I have any great... I don't often listen to the guy. I think when he talks boxing, he frequently talks twaddle. Sometimes he'll say sensible things, he'll say decent things, he'll say things I agree with. But I've never gotten over the fact that he was so glaringly biased towards Frank Warren in the past, not so much now, especially when it came to Tyson Fury. And it wasn't just him, was it? It was our favourite pudding, Gareth A. Davies, he was another one. Very, very biased towards Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury could do no wrong, and Frank Warren and Queensberry were wonderful, and Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was his sort of bête noire. He didn't like Eddie Hearn, didn't like Matchroom. Nah. I don't really have a great deal of time for Simon Jordan. He's another one I wouldn't trust, just like I wouldn't trust Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren. But you get this sort of stuff, and you've just got to say, okay, in this instance, you've gone too far. Racism? No, I don't think so. I think they're both talking bollocks, to be honest with you. But anyway, if you've got any comments, leave them below. What do you think of this? And just let me know. Leave your comments below. Thank you, as always, for your time. Have a good day. I hope it warms up a bit. And subscribe. Hit the like button. Get you later. Bye for now.